over again.
Well, here's what's so crazy. They're blaming Trump and saying that, he's doing this massive deportation. And we have to remember that in 2 terms underneath Obama, that, the report was he deported 3 million. And there wasn't this kind of uproar and outrage from the same loony Democratic Party. One thing that did draw my attention is something that Lance had prophesied regarding Trump's first presidency is, and I think it's playing out, and this is why President Trump needs to get involved, is the Lord spoke through Lance that Trump would be the chaos candidate. And isn't it interesting? Look at all the chaos that's happening, and I think that President Trump has been anointed and appointed by God to bring order. And I do want to say this last thing. Maxine, what's her name, Goofball or whatever she is out there, that nobody got killed, so it must have been, a peaceful protest. Well, according to John 10, verse 10, how you identify an enemy, and that's what these people are. They come to steal, which they're doing, kill, and to destroy. And right now, we have to bind the enemy and cast them out. And I'm glad that somebody is finally getting involved, because Newsom is a coward.
Yeah, we're gonna show that Maxine Waters clip because it's funny. It's funny. All right, so Josh Phillips with us from Epic Times. In fact, Josh was in L.A. earlier. Watch this.
We could see the burning car from back there. So we're just around the corner from the federal building. Federal building's down that way. The police have the whole area blocked off. This vehicle's burning here. Police have a checkpoint up. They say don't go any closer, because there's a burning vehicle, honestly. Again, we're here with the LA riots. You have some guys running around, helmets on, black masks. I can tell you my personal feeling right now. You have some rogue groups running around. I've seen some like Antifa-looking guys on scooters and stuff. What I've been told, you are going to have some people doing like dispersal things. They're going around areas, causing things like this. They're trying to distract police. A lot of people stopping. And so currently that's what we're seeing. Keep you updated through the night. We're going to be going around having some look at some areas. It's the gas tank. But the fire just must have hit the gas tank. It doesn't explode as fire gets bigger. So, yeah, ongoing.
All right, Josh, you were there, L.A. Did it feel like it was before? You were there firsthand. Tell us what you saw.
Well, it was interesting because I saw some really weird things going on. Of course, you just saw one of the burning vehicles. I moved to another location not long after that, actually right where the overpass was by the courthouse, where there were protesters throwing bricks and everything off of the bridge. And it was hitting police cars. There were still police cars down there, windshields damaged. The entire freeway was closed down still. I mean, this was late night, and you had vehicles clearing it. I mean, it was terrible. While I was there, someone lit another vehicle on fire, and I saw something strange. There was a guy next to me, and he had a radio in his backpack, dressed like a normal protester. Yeah, they have these like painter masks they wear and goggles. He had a radio in his backpack, and he was talking to somebody right before the fire went off, right before the second fire went off. And I saw they were coordinating. There was a group of these protesters. These were rioters, a group of them, and they were telling each other, okay, this is the next place to go, that place. Right when that car got on fire, it was like the next location they were heading to. What I was told in terms of the way they operate, you had the main focus of the protests, which was around the federal building, and then you had groups going around starting fires and so on, because every time they started a fire, you need a fire truck, you need an ambulance, and you need police to protect them. And so when police were limited, which they were until now, they only had so many to spare, and that meant that the protesters could overwhelm the remaining police wherever they were.
Pastor Hank, they're really doing this.
Well, they always talk about how California one day will, divide and fall out into the sea by an earthquake. Well, I don't really believe that, but I do believe that what they're trying to do is create enough shakings and rhetoric and narratives and buffoonery and lunacy and rioting that they do want to create this division. But I think that earlier Lance had mentioned something that I think is important. Where are the leaders of California? You cannot tell me, whether they be on the left, the right, or in the middle, that this really is how they feel California should be represented. I don't think for a moment that they believe that this is peaceful protest, unless you've gone crazy like Maxine Water, where they just probably need to throw some water on and let her melt away like the Wizard of Oz. And that's, by the way, what your vote gets. But I think that there's enough strong leaders in California, and I think there's enough people who are saying, you know what, this is not right, and we're going to stand up. And I hope that we start not just seeing the National Guard or military strength or law enforcement. I want to see we the people. And I'm not talking about insurrection or rioting. I'm talking about standing up and saying this is not allowed. And if that means making phone calls, showing up at the courthouses, talking to Gavin Newsom, who the only strength he has is in his hair gel, I think that there needs to be some tough response. To bring this thing back to a sense of peace, and I want to say this last thing. Here's what the liberals and wherever the money flow is coming from, Gene, that's funding this, what they've underestimated. There's a reason there was a landslide in our latest election that we just had in all the three branches of our government. It's because there was enough is enough. This outrage that is the majority of the American people, which, by the way, is also reflective in California. And they've pushed this too far, and it's going to backfire. And I think what it's going to do is empower more and more people to say, this is not the kind of America we want, and we're going to vote for people who reflect our interests as we the people, so that our children can grow up in quiet and peaceful streets.
Amen. All right, Josh, let's go back to the election. There was an overwhelming, in response to what Pastor Hank just said, there was a huge red appearance during the election. I mean, it was not this massive blue state, except in the very center of the cities. There is a lot of conservatives in California, but they're going to have to stand up and take care of business.
Yeah, well, I'm from San Diego originally, and growing up, San Diego was very, very Republican. And it might go that way. Really, it was looking like in the last election, several states that have been solid blue for a very long time, they could flip. New Jersey could be a swing state next time around. And so, Democrats, they can't afford to lose voters. If they're going to win, they need to gain voters. And if you watch the polling, what's happening? Well, if you watch CNN, of all places, they just had a poll come out on the reaction to what's happening in L.A., Donald Trump just had like a 30, 40-point shift with immigrants. Incredible. It's like you'd think they'd be against what's happening, but they support Trump overwhelmingly. Trump is gaining huge amounts of support through this. And so it raises the point. I don't know why they think these are winning things to get behind. Back to, Senator Fetterman raising that issue.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you think, Lance? California's going to go red? Go ahead, tell me.
Look. Trump took 40% of it. Orange County, Fresno County, San Bernardino all shifted red. If you guys would just stay in California and not leave. The problem is, Gene, everyone's leaving California because it's crazy, and they're coming over here to Texas or Florida. But we need you to stay in California. 50% of the church is under some kind of a left behind virus attack. They don't get involved with voting. So you got to pay attention to Jack Hibbs. Get out there, get some oxygen with the Christians that are doing stuff in California, because California has enough Christian voters to be able to flip the state to sanity. So I almost feel like we need to do vicarious repenting for all the goofy Christians in California who refuse to get registered to vote because they're waiting for the rapture.
All right, so June 4th, we talked about this earlier. Get this in before we go to the break. Mass protest plan for June 14th. Here's a clip, watch.
This might be one of the most important videos I've ever made. This map right here, this is a map on nokings.org. nokings.org. If you go there, you will see this along with everything else they have planned and orchestrated to start chaos and riots with protest on the 14th of this month, which is the parade, which is Donald Trump's birthday. They go on and tell you why they're doing this, why it's important to do this, because Donald Trump is using taxpayer dollars to celebrate the military with a parade on his birthday party. The irony of that. What about the taxpaying dollars to, never mind. They'll explain everything on why they have to start these groups and these little cells everywhere to have massive protest, and it's absolutely horrific when you read it. The days leading up to the 14th, they have calls, Zoom calls, nationwide calls. This one here is today, Disappeared in America, mass call. Everyone has to get on. We got to spread this out. We got to spread this out and get this out to everybody. The cities they're everywhere that they're going to be doing this in. And if you think what's happening right now in California is bad, no wonder Trump is bringing in 7,000 troops, the Marines, the SEALs, and the Arsenal. Holy cow. How long do they have this planned? NoKings.org. Share with your friends. Get the word out.
Well, I don't know if I've shared it and get the word out. We need to. You're right. Lance,
Hey,
your
Gene,
thoughts on
Gene, real quick.
that? Okay,
go
Hank.
ahead.
No, go ahead, Hank.
Yeah, I want to read you something. This was sent to me. This was a prophecy that we prophesied April 13th of 2025, and I wasn't aware of it. I'll make it quick. God says, April 13th of this year, "This is the time of my righteousness and justice. Therefore, in the earth, this is your season. Pay attention so you may understand to a specific day, a month upon your calendar, that you call Flag Day in this nation, United States. As you look at this time upon your calendar, you will see events leading up and leading to that day. Be not alarmed or moved." Pay attention to this day as you look to the Flag Day, for it will represent truth, justice, and liberty that I'm bringing. And this will begin to shift and carry you through until the time of a great celebration of your 250th year of your reign of my mercy. I need you to pray leading up to this day and that truth will come and greater exposures will begin to come forth as I shine a new liberty upon your country, saith the Lord. So I think we got to look at it from God's perspective. They want us to look at it what the devil may do, but God's saying, I am involved in the God factor. The fact that he called out this day back, April, and told us to pay attention and pray, he gave us an indication of what he wants to do. And I think we need to get in the war room and we need to pray that particular prophetic utterance out.
Absolutely. I think you're right. That's good remembrance there. Okay, Lance, your final comment here before we go to the break.
Yeah, well, I just think it's so important for us to get sophisticated. I keep using the word now because we've been doing this for 4 years, Gene, and every year we learn a little bit more, and there's funding. This is where your Soros, your Tides, your Rockefeller, there's funding organizations, the government themselves. I just said, I broke a story today on how California's own government taxes is paying for the riot in California because they allocated to departments that train students in immigration activism, and then they bring them out on the streets. So I just think, remember this, as you watch this thing happen, this isn't America having a protest. These are funded protesters having to earn their bread and butter. Since they've got paid by these donors, they got to do something. So what you're going to get is paid performance art. That's not a movement. Movements is what our side does. In their case, they do theater.
And the prophetic words. You still have that available as well, don't you, Pastor Hank?
Yes, and thank you for that. I wrote that book, Throne Room Prophecy, and thank you, Pastor Gene, for mentioning it, because it was before, obviously, all the things that happened in 2020 when there was an attack on the prophetic. And really, in some regards, there needed to be some correction brought to some of the prophetic. But then I think there was some of the prophetic vessels and prophecies that were kind of lumped into, being false and wrong, and everything began to be really disoriented, confusing for a lot of people. And so I wrote that book ahead of time, and it kind of got lost in the shuffle. But I think about Chuck Pierce and different ones, Brother Copeland that wrote, endorsements. They said it was one of the best books they ever read on the prophetic. And one of the things that we forget about is there is the legitimate voice of God in the earth. And what it really is rather than seek a word, is find those who are after the heart of God. That is the most sacred thing, is to steward over the heart of God. And when you capture his heart, you get his mind, his will, his feelings, his perspective, and his agenda. And in that book, I talk about how that's the most important thing. And that's what this vessel tries to do, is just be a mouthpiece for the heart of God. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, we put up openingtheheavens.org because that's a conference coming up. Flashpoint will be there September the 11th, 9/11, right there at the Mid-America Center outside of Omaha, Nebraska. In Iowa. Listen, so I want to see you guys there. If you want more information, go to openingtheheavens.org and you can find out more. Of course, you can go to our website, fparmy.com, and get the information about the event and all of the details there. So, Pastor Hank, you got another word to say there?
No, I was just saying, I'm so glad, at the event in, is it not Beaufort, Bedford, Texas. I keep messing it up. I mentioned, I was kind of vulnerable, said, the numbers were not where they needed to be. But you know what? The Flashpoint Army and the people of God, again, we had such a surge over the weekend of numbers. We are on track for a great showing of people to come and celebrate what God is doing, but also to pray and strategize for what God wants us to do next. I mean, we have greater numbers than the liberal magazines and podcasts and Facebook pages and even CNN. So we're seeing a real climb, and so I'm really glad that the people have responded to show their support.
Amen. All right, let's pick back up here. Josh, look at this post from CBS News. Third Chinese national accused of smuggling biological materials into Michigan. Now, this happened last week, and we didn't get to spend a lot of time on it. This is pretty huge stuff that's happening. We had an ag biological material